Okay, good morning, everybody. As we start the chitas of the day, um, today is Tuesday. The 27th day of the month of Shabbat. We're coming closer to Chodesh Adar. So we start the pasuk. We're holding in the book of Exodus. We're holding in the book of Mishpatim, which is the book of laws, and which is the pasha deals with many laws between man and man. Fascinating Torah laws, and we're holding on chapter 22, verse number 4. Okay, ki yavad ish sada, if a man leads his animals into a field or a vineyard, as bi'irai, v'shilach as bi'irai, and he lets his animals loose, and they go into and destroy another person's field. Meitiv sadeu v'meitiv karma yishalem. He has to pay from the best of his fields. He's got to pay from the best. Rashi says this is all in the Gemara, beautiful laws, that if you don't protect your animal, that's yiva'er. If you don't let your animals go into other fields for somebody else, there's a concept of paying meita sadeu. In halacha, you have bein idios, beinos, and ziburios. Idios means the best of your fields. Beinos is the middle, and ziburios is the worst. When it comes to damages, halacha says you have to pay from the best of your fields. That means, let's say you don't have money. So if you damage your animal, damage another person's field, you have to give him the value of you can't take him to send him to a shmata field. You have to give him the best of your fields. New law, verse 5. If a fire goes out, and it finds thorns, gadish, and it eats grain, or standing grain, and then it goes and consumes somebody else's field. Yishalem hamavet es habe'era. The one who ignited the fire pays for his fire. So Rashi says that if the Torah get kiseitze, if a fire goes out, means even if it went out for itself. If I start a fire in my field and I don't protect it, and it goes and travels to somebody else's field, it's the same law, even though I didn't send it into your field. And that's the law, kiseitze. Or scorched the frows that he had plowed, and he had to plow a second time. So Rashi says in the last Rashi, Shalom, one who ignited the fire shall surely pay, although he ignited it within his own property, and it spread by itself through thorns that are found, he is liable to pay, because he did not guard the burning coals, so that it would not go forth and damage in somebody else's property. New law, verse number 6. Here the Torah goes into the laws of watchmen. You have basically 4 different kinds of watchmen. You have an unpaid watchman, a paid watchman, a person that borrows, a person that rents. 4 different laws you'll soon see. So first we start off with an unpaid watchman, meaning somebody gave me an object to watch, and he didn't pay me for watching it. There's a whole law. So here's the law. If a man gives his neighbor money or any articles to watch, and it was stolen from my house, you gave me something to watch, somebody stole it. If the thief is found, yishalem shnayim, he shall pay double. So Rashi says that the Lefi Dvarim, according to his words, it was stolen. I said it was stolen, right? You gave me a watch to watch. You gave me a diamond ring to watch, and it was stolen from me. You come back and ask, can I have my diamond ring back? I say it was stolen. I say it was stolen. If you find the ganif, he has to pay double. If the ganif was not found, then you bring me to the court. If I did not abuse your object, I have to make a vow that I not use your object. You gave me to watch. I put it in a safe. I put it in my closet, and I did not use the object. So that's the law. Yeah, I have to make a vow that I did not use the object. Then I'm potter. Then I'm not obligated because I'm an unpaid watchman. An unpaid watchman doesn't pay for anything that happens to the object unless he was negligent in the object or he used the object. Verse 8. I'll call dvar pesha on any sinful words. Al asher, we'll soon see what that means. Al asher, on the lamb, on the bull, al chamer, on a donkey, al asel, on a lamb, al salma, or on a garment. Al kol aveda, on any object. Asher yoma ki hu zeh, which he, the watchman, will say, this is what happened. Yaved vashneim, you to bring both things and to the court. If the court will judge him to be guilty, he's obligated, the watchman, to pay double. This pasuk teaches us many laws in halacha, in Jewish law, and we'll go through it quickly. Al kol dvar pesha. What does that mean? Rashi says it means that we're talking here with the watchman lied in his vow. He said he doesn't have it. He says somebody stole it, and now we have witnesses that he has it. So this is the law. If you gave me a diamond ring and I say it was stolen, which makes me potter, I make a vow that I didn't touch the object. Now 2 witnesses come and say, you had the diamond ring. You're a ganif. I now have to pay double. That's the law. And I pay double because I made a vow. I'm paying one time because of the thing that I've stolen. And number 2 is because of the vow that I say. And that's what Rashi says in the Gemara. Says that the teaching that you brought it before the Bezdin and you made him make a vow, then he pays double. But if he didn't make a vow, you just caught him without the vow, he gives back the object, or if the object's not there, he has to pay for it. So that's what the Torah teaches us. So Rashi says that this teaches us another law. That he has to make that the witnesses says that either goes in the witness. The guy made a vow, so the witness says no, that he has it, and therefore the court will have to see if the testimony of the witness is true. Then he has to pay double. Another teaches us that if the witnesses are caught to be liars, that we have the 2 witnesses are caught, which is called in Torah law Eidim Zoymimim, that another 2 witnesses come and say, how do you say that this happened if you weren't there? Then the witnesses have to pay. So if the witnesses are caught to be liars, I mean, they would that in a specific kind of case that they weren't there, because how do you say that this happened if you weren't even there? Then the witnesses have to pay double, to pay what they wanted to do. Another thing it teaches us in the Gemara, Rashi says, is It comes to teach us when you have to make a vow. When does a person have to make a vow? When he contradicts a loan of money. That teaches us when a guy comes, for example, and says on a verbal loan, and it says, I've given you $100, and the guy says, you know what, you only gave me $50. There's no documentation, there's no witnesses. That's called in Torah law a modeh b'miktsas, somebody who acknowledges in a half of the loan. I don't acknowledge in the whole loan, I acknowledge in the half. Then like you came to me, you said you owe me $100. I said I only owe you 50. I have to make a vow that I only owe you 50. And then I'm free. If I don't want to make the vow, I have to give you back the $100. That's called a modeh b'miktsas. If you would come to me and say you owe me $100, and I would say I owe you nothing, then you would have to bring witnesses or have to have a document. But now that I was modeh, I acknowledged half. That's what the Torah comes to. The guy says, this is what happened, not the other thing that happened. Then you have to make a vow. It's a whole different law, but we learn it from this verse. And Rashi brings that down. Number 9. Verse number 9 comes to teach us the second concept of watchman. The first was a free paid watchman. Now number 9 comes to teach us a paid watchman. If a man gives his friend a donkey, a bull, a lamb, or any animal for safekeeping, umei say nishbar, and the donkey died or was captured, ein roya, and there's no witnesses. So Rashi says this verse is talking about a paid watchman. What's the difference between a paid watchman and an unpaid watchman? An unpaid watchman is not responsible even if it's stolen. He's only responsible if he was negligent. A paid watchman is responsible when it was stolen from his house because he's paid to watch it. And the second he's paid to watch it, he's responsible to make sure nobody steals it. When is he not responsible? If an unforeseen action happened, and that is the animal died. Or guys came into his house, broke into his house, and took away the animal by force. He's not responsible. But he has to make a vow again. As the Torah is going to say, he has to make a vow that he was not negligent. How do we know that he wasn't negligent? So he has to still make the vow. So over here we're talking about a paid watchman, and the law of a paid watchman is that he is responsible if somebody stole it. And that's verse number 9. Verse number 10. Shvuas Hashem tia ben shneim. There has to be a vow between both of them. Again, if you did not touch this object, you were not paid to use the object, you were not paid to have any personal joy of the object. And if you did, that's negligence. And the property the owner shall accept it. He takes the vow. The owner has to accept the vow. I make the guy. I'm the paid watchman. You gave me an object to watch, and you paid me to watch it. I make a vow that I was not negligent, and I don't say it was stolen from me, because if it was stolen from me, I would be responsible. I say it died, and I am free. Again, if I don't want to make that vow, I have to pay. Verse number 11. But if it was stolen from me as a paid watchman, I am responsible. If it was torn apart, then he shall bring a witness for it. And he's not responsible. So you're not responsible on a unforeseen kind of a situation. So Rashi says for one of Torah is not paid. The Torah does not say for a torn one he should not pay for. Okay, I'm sorry. So Rashi says that atreifa. I'm sorry. Atreifa lo yishalem. And that word atreifa, the dead one, he doesn't have to pay for. So Rashi says hatreifa. This is another law teaches us that there's not, if you gave me a cow to watch and it was torn apart, so then there's a difference. Hatreifa tells us not everything that I'm not responsible. If a lion came, I'm not responsible. If a bear came, I'm not responsible. If a snake came, I'm not responsible. But if my cat hurt your animal, my dog hurt your animal, I am responsible. So only if something unforeseen, I couldn't protect it from a lion that came into, but if it was a cat, my cat killed the animal, I am responsible. So hatre for the murder, the ripped up situation, has to be a situation where it's unforeseen. Okay. Now the Torah teaches us the third level of giving something to somebody else. Ki yishal. If somebody borrows something, you didn't give it to me as an unpaid watchman. You didn't give it to me as a paid watchman. You lend me the object. That's the next tier. V'nishba a mace, and now it broke and it died. Unforeseen object. So here the Torah gives us a law. Baal of Einimai. If you were not with me, I'm the borrower. If the lender was not with me, I pay. That's the highest level of responsibility, is a borrower. A borrower, if I borrow the object, which I borrowed it to use, I am responsible for everything. I'm responsible for everything. As Rashi says, this teaches us that a borrower is responsible even for incidents beyond my control. I'm still responsible. I'm only not responsible if the lender was with me at the time of the accident. We were working together with the cow, and the cow died. You came to visit me, and the cow died while you were there. You can say, "Oh, no, I borrowed it to you. It's your responsibility." No, you were there, and you saw the cow die. Verse 14. Here the Torah tells us another law in the second part of the pasuk, the law of a renter. And here the Torah doesn't tell us exactly what is the law of the renter. That means I am paying you for it. I'm paying you for the cow. I'm using your cow, but I'm not borrowing it for free. I'm paying you to use the cow. That's a renter. So Rashi, the Torah says, let's learn the pasuk. Ki yishal ish mimreu. I'm sorry. Im baal of imay, verse 14. That's what we're holding. Lo yishal, but if the owner's with him, he has to pay. Im sachiru. If he's a hired animal, I'm a renter. I'm paying for the animal I've taken for you. Ba b'scharei, he comes with the rent, with the hire. So Rashi says, first of all, Rashi says in baal of imay. If the owner is with him, the lender is with him. We're still holding in a borrower. Someone borrowed the animal. I borrowed the animal. If the renter is with him, whether the renter, Rashi says openly, whether the renter is with him in working with the cow, whether the renter is with him for other reasons, if he's there, if he's there, at the time of if was with him the bar at the time of the loan, he the owner need not to be there at the time of the limb was broken or the time of the animal to make him exempt from payment. He had to actually be there at the time of the giving. So here Rashi says, if the bull was not borrowed but hired, right? So now, and it came to be hired into the hands of this hire for a fee, not through lending. He, the hirer, does not have a complete benefit of the animal, for he used it through its hire, and he does not have the stature of a borrower to be liable for incidents beyond his control. So what is the law of a renter? The Torah ever did not specify what is the stature of a renter, whether he is an unpaid watchman or a paid watchman. whether he judges as an unpaid custodian or he's paid as a paid custodian. Therefore, in the Gemara, there's an argument. What is a renter? Rameir says he's like an unpaid watchman, which makes him not liable for anything unless he did negligence. And Rabbi Yehuda says he's like a paid watchman, and his responsibility is even if something is stolen from him, but he's not responsible if the animal was an accident and has died for unforeseen situations. And that completes another law. We just went through 4 different kinds of renters and watchmen. Okay, verse 15. Another law. Yifatish Basula. If a man will seduce a woman, Ashalea Rasha, a virgin, was never married, Vima, and he's going to have a relationship with her. This is a very interesting law. The Torah says, if you have a relationship out of marriage, you have to get married. If the woman wants to get married, you have to get married. And you're obligated to this woman to be married to her if she wants to get married. Let's say she's underage and her parents don't want you to get married, doesn't want her to get married because she's underage. Little like Cassie Ishko Kabar Psulis, if the father refused to give her to him in marriage, we're talking about a girl that's underage. So then it's a monetary payment. You have to pay. It's a civil case, and whatever the court will decide, you have to pay for this relationship. We're not talking about a married woman. Well, married woman, somebody has a man who has a relationship with a married woman, he's put to death. We're talking about an unmarried woman. So if she's at age, she's an adult, and she wants to be married to you because of this relationship, the man is obligated to marry her. That's the Torah law. Verse 17. That would control kids from having relationships. They would have to get married. Verse 17. You shall not allow a sorcerer to live. Rashi says, even though it says over here in a feminine way, machashefa is a feminine word, but it doesn't really make a difference whether it's a man sorcerer or a woman sorcerer. In Jewish law, you're not allowed to do sorcery. Verse 18, another law. Kol sheichiv im behema. If you do bestiality, you have a relationship with an animal, you shall be put to death. Verse 19. Zeiveach lelakim yechram. One who slaughters a sacrifice to God shall be destroyed. Biltil Hashem levale. You're only allowed to bring a sacrifice to God. Rashi says, lelakim over here teaches us l'avodah zarah, that you sacrifice for avodah zarah. That teaches us that you're only obligated death when it comes to avodah zarah. This teaches the law, a general law, that you're only obligated when you worship avodah zarah. If you worship avodah zarah, then you're obligated in a punishment of death. But if you glorified avodah zarah, or you washed it, you painted it, or you gave it honor, that's not when you're punishable by death. That's what the Torah wants to teach us. Torah wants to teach us here only if you worship avodah zarah, in a sacrifice, in the way avodah zarah is worship, then you're punishable for death. Verse number 20. You shall not mistreat a stranger. You shall not oppress him. Kigedem is because remember when you were strangers in the land of Egypt. So Rashi, what does it come to teach us? Why would the Torah need to tell us that? The Torah wants to tell us that you're not even do taunting by words. You're not allowed to make a stranger feel bad that he's a stranger in your land. Don't taunt him even with words. Surely not to taunt him with actions. Don't even taunt him with words. Do not oppress him. Even not oppress him, don't beat him up. Stealing his money. He gave him a Yisrael because you were strangers in the land of Egypt. If you taunt him, he can also taunt you and say to you, you too emanate from strangers. You are a stranger too. Do not reproach your neighbor with the fault that you have on your own. Every expression of a stranger means a person who is not born in the country, but comes from another country. Be nice to immigrants that come into your land. How important this law is. Verse 21. Kol amona v'yosam, a widower and an orphan, do not oppress. Torah says, what do you mean? The Rashi says, what do you mean? You're not oppress anybody. Why did the Torah tell us you shouldn't oppress an orphan, a widow, or an orphan? So Rashi said, because these are the Torah really, you're not oppress anybody. The Torah just wants to tell you that these are people that are easy to oppress. Don't take advantage of a person that is weak and it's easy for you to oppress. Because you know why? Verse 22. If you oppress him, if he or she will cry out to me, I will hear his cry. So Rashi says that over here teaches us that you're gonna that the Eibishter will, wherever you oppress a person that is oppressed to begin with, a person that's in pain to begin with, I will do exactly what happened to this person. And that's what the verse says, 23. And my wrath will kindle. You will die. And your wives will become widowers. And your children will become orphans. So Rashi says, from the implication of what I said, and I will slay you. Do not know your wives will become widows and your children become orphans? So what does the Torah tell us? Rather, it's telling us something else. This is another curse. Namely, that the wives will be bound in living widowhood. I'm going to go harsher, because the widow that you're oppressing can remarry. But your wives, the ones who oppress widows, your wives will never be able to marry because they're not going to know if you're dead or not. They're going to become what's called in Jewish law an aguna. They will never be able to get married again. Children will be orphans because the court will not allow them to have father's property. And your children will be orphans and not be able to inherit because nobody knows if you're alive or dead. So your wives will not be able to marry. Your children will not be able to inherit your property. It's going to be a tragedy. Do not oppress a widow or an orphan. End of that law. Verse 24. In Kelsa Talva Esani, if you lend money to another Jew, Esani Imach, to the poor person who is with you, don't behave towards him as a lender. Do not pose interest upon him. Very powerful law. So let's go to the Rashi. In Kesef Talvasami, if you lend money to my people, Rabbi Shmuel says, Im, over here in the Torah is optional except 3. And this is one of them. It's not a question if you want to lend money. You should always lend money to help people. Actually, the Rambam writes that that's the highest level of charity, is to lend money. Why does the Torah say, Ami, my nation? Because if you have a certain amount of money, you should lend it first to a Jew and then lend it to the non-Jews. An ani, you have to go look at Rashi, to my people. If a member of my people, an Israelite, and a Gentile apply for a loan, the member of my people take preference. If a poor person and a rich person apply for a loan, the poor person takes preference. If a poor of your city and a poor of another city applies for a loan, the poor of your city takes preference. And this is the meaning: when you lend money, lend it to my people and not to a Gentile and to which is my people, to a poor person, to which is And to which poor person? To one who's with you. If you have enough money to lend only to one person, lend it to a Jew rather than a non-Jew. If the Gentile will pay you interest, and you are allowed to take interest for the not allowed to take interest for the Jew, so you'll say, wait a second, why should I lend it to a Jew? I can't take interest. Let me lend it to a non-Jew. I can take interest. Torah says no, lend it to a Jew. Another meaning to my people, that you shall not behave towards him, the borrower, in a demeaning manner when you lend it to him, for he's a member of your people. Don't make him feel like he's a weak person. Esa'ani imach, Rashi says, very interesting expression the Torah uses. The poor person who is with you. Look what Rashi says. Look at yourselves as you were a poor person. Put yourself in this poor person's shoes. That's why the Gemara says that if you give money, you lend money, or you give tzedakah to a person, you get one mitzvah. But if you console him, faisa, you make the person feel good. Don't make him feel like he needs to, like you're the big guy and he's the weak guy. Make him feel good. Tell him he'll be all right. Here's the money. Don't worry. You'll have a better day. That's more powerful. Make the person feel like you're in his pain. You shall not demand it from him forcibly. What do you think he lent money? What do you think he borrowed money for you? He has no money. Don't be on top of him. That's what the Torah means. If you know that he does not have the money to repay you, do not appear to him as if he has lent it to him. Do not appear to him as if you have lent it to him, but as if you have not lent it to him. Don't make sure that you remind him every day, I lent you money. You know that he doesn't have the money. Leave him to be. One day he will pay you. Neshech, Rashi says, ribis, this is interest. Why is interest called neshech? Because it's like a biting snake, which bites by making a small wound in a person's throat. And the person does not feel the wound. And suddenly it spreads and swells up as far as his crown. So too is with interest. He does not feel it. And it's not noticeable until the interest accumulates and it costs him a considerable amount of money. That's why the Torah calls interest like a snake bite. To begin with, it feels good. I'm getting the money. I don't have to worry about the interest. But slowly the interest accumulates, and your loan has doubled and tripled and bites you at the end. Verse 25. If you take your neighbor's garment, and when you gave him money, you took a collateral, you took his garment as security. That's like a security blanket. Until sunset, you shall return it to him. This is very interesting law. Torah says, the Torah calls, if you take it as security, that no expression of chavala means security, giving at a time of the loan. But that which is extracted from him, the debtor, when the debt became due, and the debtor did not pay, so I took something from him. The Torah repeats itself. That security implying that one may take security even many times. The Holy One, blessed be, said, how much you owe me, yet your soul ascends to me every night, gives an account, is found guilty before me, and I return it to you. Take it and return it. Take it and return it. If the guy he only has this blanket, and that's all he has as a security, give it back to him at night. So keep it in the day, give it back to him at night. For an entire day, you shall return it until the sunset. If that was a garment, he needs to go out. It's the only garment that he has. And when the sun sets, you may again take it until the next morning arrives. This verse speaks of a garment worn by day, which is not needed at night. If you took a blanket of his, which he needs at night, return it to him. He needs a blanket. Or the Torah is talking about a garment. The guy was a poor man. He only gave you a garment. So he doesn't wear the garment at night. So take it from him at night, return it to him in the day. So he can go out and work. Take it from him at night, return it in the day. This is his garment. For his flesh. But my yishkav, which way is he gonna go out? And when this man will cry out to me that he's destitute, he owes money, and now he has no garment, and I will hear, because I am gracious. This is his cloak. Simla zuchaluk. This is his shirt. B'may yishkev. This comes to include even something that you spread out on his bread. If you take his sheets, as I mentioned, the blanket, you should make sure return it when he needs it. Very powerful laws of the Torah, and that ends the Chumash of the day. Now the Alter Rebbe goes to Tanya, holding in chapter 28 of Tanya. The Alter Rebbe continues a powerful teaching in Tanya, and this is so important to all of us that we should know this, and that is that the Alter Rebbe is trying to convince us that we should not be worried about thoughts that are negative. It should not drag us down, even if they're true. Even if we know that these thoughts are right. And therefore, I should fix it. But it's right now, it's making me feel bad. So Rashi says, listen to this. This refutes the common error. Shetoyim, those that want to fight, want to say, layichiach, to prove, that to say that the reason why I have an evil thought in the time of prayer, this proves this proves that my prayer is nothing. Look at that. Look at a sinful guy I am. If I was such a holy guy, would I have a thought, negative thought, a lustful thought, a negative thought, a depressing thought, whatever your thought might be in the time of prayer? Because if I would pray correctly, I would not think evil thoughts. I would not think evil thoughts. So you might say, look at that, I'm a bad guy. I'm a terrible person. I should be depressed. I'm having evil thoughts. So Alter Rebbe says, big mistake. And the reason is because as follows. They might be right. Every Jew only had one soul. If you had one soul, and this poor one soul is good and bad, if this soul itself is a Jekyll and Hyde, this soul itself is good and bad, you got a problem. Then you got to worry. If it's one soul that has the capability of negative and positive, then you got something to be depressed about. That would be right. This soul is the one who prays, and this soul is the one who has evil thoughts. Then, my friend, we have a problem. But that's not the truth. That's not the truth. It's two souls. It's not one soul. You have two souls. You have a godly soul, and you have an animalistic soul. Your godly soul is pure, never becomes impure. It's your animalistic soul that's trying to bring the impurity. So therefore, even though you have negative thoughts, you still have a godly soul. If you sin, you still have a godly soul. For surely if you have negative thoughts, you're a godly soul. You still have a godly soul. So stop it. This is a war you're having with two different souls. There's two different powers in your body. Because as I've explained before, each one of these souls are fighting That each soul, your godly soul, wants to be filled in your mind, and your animalistic soul wants to be. They're fighting over your mind. Why wouldn't the godly soul fight over your mind in time of prayer? What, he goes to sleep? I'm not a tzaddik with my. If I have an animalistic soul, it'll go to sleep when I'm praying. It will not. It's wide awake. And therefore, me, I'm an old person. I have two souls. All my positive thoughts, my godly thoughts, come from my godly soul. And every negative and worldly thought comes from my animalistic soul. I have a two-soul system. But the godly soul is enclosed within the animal soul at that time. He has no choice. So when I'm thinking about shtus and nevalim or worldly things or chas v'shalom negative things, my godly soul is still there. He has no choice. He's stuck with me. And this is, for example, in Jewish law, a great tzaddik is that a person is standing and praying, and is standing next to him a wicked heathen. And this heathen is bothering him. This heathen wicked guy that's standing next to him is bothering him. You have to look at your animalistic soul as this heathen wicked guy who's standing next to you. The problem is he's not standing next to you, he's actually within you, so it's a bigger problem, but it's the same thing. It's another entity. I was created by God with a godly soul, can be perfect, not do one sin. And I have this heathen. I have this troublemaker who constantly is going around with me, doesn't want to leave me for some reason. What's the best way if a guy's standing next to you and he doesn't want to stop, and he's a big guy, you can't fight with him. Ignore him. Ignore him. Don't respond. Don't get in an argument with this guy because he's bigger than you, he's stronger than you. Just ignore him. Make yourself like you're deaf. Make yourself, because you do hear a guy. He's standing right next to you. He's bothering you. But you got no choice. He's there. And you can't get rid of him. He's a big guy. Ignore him. Same things with my animalistic soul. Don't argue with your evil thoughts. That's a mistake. The second you get into an argument, my animalistic soul is happy. Okay, let's go. You think you can outrun me? I'll show you. I cannot outrun my animalistic soul. Every excuse I'm going to have, that my animalistic soul is going to come with a better one. So don't argue with your animalistic soul. Ignore it. And this is a very famous expression of the Gemara. One who wrestles with a filthy person is bound to become filthy himself. It's an expression. Why fight with somebody that's filthy? You're going to become filthy. Why argue with your animalistic soul? You think he's not going to have some kind of effect on you? As I said, he's called a melech zoken exil. He's called a wise, sly king. He's not. He's there. He's with you for many years. He knows you very well. He knows the right buttons to push. He knows exactly what the arguments that are going to compel you to think negative. He knows exactly. Therefore, ignore him. Walk away. Make yourself pretend. Again, it's pretend because you know the truth that you're hearing it. But it's like the guy standing next to you is screaming. Ignore him. Make believe you don't hear the guy. And after a while, the guy's going to get bored of screaming. He's going to walk away. You should dismiss them from your mind. And when you do that, and strengthen still more power and concentration. If, however, the Alter Rebbe says he finds it difficult to dismiss them, okay, it's very hard. The guy standing next to me, my animalistic soul, doesn't let me live. What should I do? Because they distract his mind very strong. So here the Alter Rebbe gives another way to do it. He should humble himself to God. He should supplicate it himself. He should supplicate his thoughts to compassion. He should ask God, please have rachmanis on me. Berachmim merubim, with great compassion, please help me. I cannot overcome this. It's bothering me. Help me. Be a helper to me. Like a father who has pity on his children, who stems from his brain. I'm you. You tell God, just like a child comes from the father's brain. We mentioned that in Tanya. So too I come from you. So if you ask God for help, God will help you. If you do it out of humility, not come to God, oh, you know what, I deserve, I'm a big knacker. No, it's the opposite. I can't even control my thoughts. I can't even control my animalistic soul. Forget about anything. Forget about bigger things. I can't control my own nefesh of Bahamas. I'm nothing. Please, God, help me. Help me overcome this. God will have compassion on your soul because your soul comes from him. To rescue you from the turbulent waters, which is the thoughts that disturb the soul. This he should do for his own sakes, since truly his people are part of the Lord. So that's the way that Tanya ends today. Number one is realize that you have to just ignore it. And if you can't, push it, beg God to help you out, to get out of the control of your animalistic soul. And if you'll do it with contrite heart, and you'll do it with humility, there's no question that Alter Rebbe says that God will help you. That ends the Tanya of the day. Today is the 27th day in the month of Shvat, which starts on chapter 120. 120. It's a lot of chapters today. 120. It's 15 chapters. 120 to 132. 34. 120 to 134. Have a beautiful, wonderful, happy, healthy day. See you tonight, everybody. We have a Chumash class, JLI Chumash class, on the portion of Mishpatim at 7:30 p.m. Have a beautiful day, everybody.
You too, Rabbi. Thank you very much.
God bless you.